1984, working at the Marriage Tribunal here in the city of the Diocese of La Crosse. And some years ago, Bishop Listecki said to me one day, "Father, you should get out into the parishes and talk about annulment, because there is so much bad information out there, or lack of information altogether." And I have been doing this for some years now, and annulment. You know what, folks? First of all, annulment is not a Catholic word for divorce. Divorce is the word we use when two people decide they cannot live together any longer unless they run the risk of someone being hurt. So one or the other goes off to a civil judge petitioning for a divorce, and that decision is made, and the judge says, here we have two married people who are no longer going to live this marriage. You can go back out into the world as single folks. He doesn't say there was no marriage. He's saying there's a marriage and two people are not going to live any longer. That's divorce. Annulment says there never was a marriage. Now I can kind of feel it in the air that some of you are thinking, are you telling me that people who have been married 17 years and had 3 kids and now they break up and one or the other is going to ask for a declaration of nullity and that might be granted? And I'm going to tell you, yes, it might be granted. How can you do that? Well, let me ask you a question. What makes marriage? What makes marriage? Don't anybody say something that happened in church on a Saturday afternoon. Don't anybody even say love. What makes marriage? The only thing that makes marriage is proper marital consent. And marital consent is very, very different from consent to a wedding. Americans are great at consenting to weddings, not nearly so great at consenting to marriages. What makes marriage? Two people, only thing that makes marriage, as I said, is proper marital consent, and that consent must have proper content. And what would be the content of proper marital consent? 4 things. Two people must commit to live together for life. They must commit to a relationship that is open to children. They must commit to a relationship that's going to be lived in sexual fidelity. And each must commit to making marriage a good life experience for their spouse. Doesn't everyone do that? Well, friends, I can guarantee that somewhere in our diocese today, where there was a wedding, now, I don't know where it was, who did, right now, just a couple got married, but one or both said there will be no children. I'm not going to let kids get into the way of my career. I don't want to share my money with little people. I don't want to be tied up and do anything that kids demand of you. Well, that couple is off probably at this very hour at a wonderful reception. And tomorrow they'll have a gift opening session. Everything happened properly except no marriage, because improper marital consent. They decided to be no children. And they mean to live with that. And maybe only one has decided this. Well, that's the kind of thing that sooner or later is going to be a divorce. There's a likelihood, at least, great likelihood. Let's say just one of these people come to us later and say, married 4 years, divorce. And now this is what it was like between us before we got married. I was trying to convince him that we were going to have children. I was trying to convince her that we would have children. She said no, and lived with that through our 4 years of marriage. It wasn't a marriage, was it? It was a living arrangement for Divorce is that which breaks up the home. Divorce is that which probably exposes the kids to things that should never see mother and dad saying to each other or doing to each other. Divorce is the disaster. Annulment is simply the church's effort to heal the spiritual weakness and illness of the one who has experienced a divorce and is no longer able to celebrate the fullness of the church's liturgy. Two people here's a man going 25 years old, and almost certainly with most of life ahead of them, and a divorce already behind one or the other, or both. A possibility of a wedding or a marriage is going to come along again. But that one is not able to celebrate the sacrament of matrimony because presumably there is already a marriage standing there, and marriage is for life, and you can't have two marriages. So the annulment is an effort, if it is granted, is the healing of the weakness and the incapacity of that particular Catholic person to celebrate the totality of the marriage, of the church's liturgy. Some people say, well, annulment is nothing more. And by the way, annulment does not have anything to do with the legitimacy of the children. Legitimacy flows from any marriage that is registered to the register of deeds in the diocese, in the county in which it happens. And whatever happens to that marriage down the road by the church, it has nothing to do, touches in no way the legitimacy of the kids. People say, I'm not going to have an annulment because it's nothing more than a great big money-making thing for the church. Well, friends, let's do a tiny bit of arithmetic quickly this afternoon. Our budget is about $160,000 a year, and if we are very fortunate, we will take in 45 or 50,000 or less. So you get 160,000 going out, 45 or 50,000 coming in. Only the federal government would call that a money-making operation. It's a huge leaker of money. Why do you do it if it's such a leaker of money? Because it's part of the healing mission of the church. Some people say, I'm not going to do it because this goes on forever. Well, I can tell you, friends, it doesn't go on forever. And if someone were to start a case in this coming week, I could pretty well tell you that it will probably be finished before Valentine's Day, before the middle of February. It doesn't go on forever. And it's not as though it would even have to take that long. If we have some manner of emergency, we take a case out of order and get it done in 5 or 6 weeks. Everybody is cooperating with our project. So it doesn't take all that long. Would it surprise you to know? Or rather, people say, I'm not going to do it because it costs me too much. Well, we asked. Got that word? We asked for $400 for a process that cost the better part of $1,500 to do. We asked $400. If someone says I can never pay, can't possibly pay $400 for this, how much can you pay? You know what, friends? We do get negotiated down to zero. And guess what? The case is accepted. It moves at the same speed as it would if we had the $400 up front, and it's obviously not going to have any manner of effect on the decision. It is not a very expensive project for the person who is the petitioner. Would it surprise you to know that a lot of our marriages have to do with, a lot of our cases have to do with non-Catholic marriages? Now I bet there are people here in church today who said, I didn't know the church even recognized the marriages of non-Catholics. Back to the beginning, what makes marriage? proper marital consent. Whether we have two Presbyterians, two Lutherans, two Baptists, two Muslims, or two whatever, if they are free to marry and in proper context express marital consent, that is reckoned as a valid marriage, and presumably was. But it breaks up in divorce and one or the other petitions for annulment, and no, they didn't petition for annulment yet because after Sue and Frank, a couple of Lutherans, been married 3 years, the marriage breaks up. Now Sue is going with Joe, who's a Catholic, and Joe says, you know what, Sue, I could get interested in you, and you could probably get interested in me as well. But we might as well cool it. There's nothing going to happen here. You're not free to marry me. I'm not free to marry you. As a matter of fact, Sue, you're not free to marry anyone in this world, because this business of marrying once is not the church law, it's God's law. Frank says, but you know what, Sue? Would you consider that we would take you and your case to my pastor, and maybe we can fill out some forms and see if there's not a possibility that there be a declaration of health. And Sue is not exactly excited about this whole thing, but she is more excited about Frank. And so she decides, okay, let's do it. And that's how we get the non-Catholic marriage to deal with. Now, guess what? When that comes in, we hardly even notice that we're dealing with the marriage between two non-Catholics, because that's not our issue. Our issue is to decide whether it was a valid marriage, and the religion of the parties is quite irrelevant. So, these are some of the things I think that are brought up in conversation at the barbershop or the beauty salon or the backyard barbecue or the bar. And all kinds of strange stuff is passed around about annulment. I just heard in the last couple of months, again, someone saying, is it true that an annulment costs $10,000? No, it's not. But that kind of misinformation and that kind of strange stuff is passed around. So, having said that, friends, can I say this? More positive score. Some people say there are too many annulments. I suggest to you, friends, there are too few, because the church is losing people by droves of people by reason of second marriages. There should be more petitions for annulment. And that's not exactly what I was going to say immediately. What I want to say is this, friends. All you married folks, do you have any idea how significant you are to the future of the church, the future of our nation? When married life and family life falls apart, it doesn't take long when the whole operation, the whole experiment, the whole society falls apart. At the present moment, the fracturing of family life is an epidemic that the nation cannot live with forever. So, friends, you are married folks, you are the heroes that must stand against the flood of secular thinking that's coming at you and is saying that, okay, you got to be happy, but not constantly, completely, and totally, deliciously happy in marriage. Time to get out. Come on. We're looking, marriage calls for the best in the human soul. And the best is that we can live with things that aren't always exactly what we would want. But we're living with the idea that we have a project we took on years ago, and we're going to carry it on to completion for the rest of life. Friends, married friends, future of our church and the future of our nation.